I wanna be a billionaire, I ain't getting no sleep till I see $1 million every week. I wanna be a billionaire, I ain't getting no sleep till I see $1 billion every week. I wanna be a billionaire, I wanna be a billionaire. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Sleep is for Billionaires, the podcast. I am your host, Johnny VEGAZ. Now today, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. Right now I have the founder and CEO of Sound Royalties, HEICHE. How you doing, sir?
Good to see you, Johnny.
Pleasure's all mine, man. Thank you for doing this, man.
My pleasure.
I was reaching out for a while. I know our schedules, were a little conflicting, but we finally made it happen.
Yes.
So, thank you for coming in today. I totally appreciate it, man.
No, it's great to be here. I'm glad we could figure it out.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Well, I definitely wanted to talk more about, more music. But before we get into Sound Royalties and everything that consists of, I want to talk more about the man with the plan, where things started and how you obtained this entrepreneurial mindset that got you to where you are today. So, where are you from?
I was born and raised in Maryland, just
Okay.
outside of D.C. My father was a government worker. My mother was stay-at-home mom, and she also taught French cooking classes and stuff, but just middle-class income family.
Okay. So they definitely sound like they had that entrepreneurial mindset.
No, my father was books. He had two PhDs and 2 master's degrees, all studied in different languages. Really smart man, but really focused, but would not invest in the stock market, viewed that as gambling, would not invest in businesses or anything. He just was earn, save. My mom more so, she was kind of creative and, fostered that kind of energy.
Okay. Well, something trickled into you that kept you going, so that's awesome. So tell me, what dreams did you have, as a child prior to starting this business? What did you want to be back in those days?
Growing up, I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be a musician. And I actually was, heavy in the music side. I did 0 sports. It was music through high school. And it wasn't until the end of high school that just abruptly stopped when I went to college. But it was always music, and that's what I wanted to do and what I thought I would do and thought I would be part of. But then there was kind of a
fork in the road?
There was a fork in the road, and I went in one direction, and it pulled me in one direction, and it was away from music for a number of years, ironically.
Man, that happens sometimes, but it's cool how, God takes you one way, but then brings you back another way, and we'll get into that a little later. But what were some of your influences that inspired you to be this rock star you wanted to be back in those days?
Well, I love the creativity of music, and that's part of the reason it was in 1988 that I actually stopped playing altogether because I was so frustrated with music. It was my first love, but it wasn't my first language. So I could condition myself, practice to play anything just about. But when it came to creating, speaking, I think all the lessons and the structure that I'd been part of kind of inhibited me, or maybe I just wasn't capable, but I couldn't speak. So it was a language that I understood, but I couldn't speak, and it was very frustrating. I was just mechanically playing, whether it was a saxophone or a piano or whatever. I felt very limited.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. You can't let it discourage you, but seems like you you had other plans after that. So when you got to college, you said that's when it stopped, and then you took the school route.
Yeah, well, I was also always interested in computers.
Okay.
I remember the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 and those early Atari models that had keyboards and programming, BASIC, and then COBOL went on, or C first. But if you go back before there were computer degrees, the IBMs of the world were recruiting from musicians, from music schools, because when you write a piece of software code, you're creating an environment, you're telling a story that's never been told before. You're creating something.
Right.
When you write a song or play a solo, you're telling a story that's never been told before, and it's also mathematically based.
Right.
Whether it's a 4 count or whatever, so it's the same part of the brain. And so it wasn't a thought-out process, but I ended up moving more towards the computer industry and tech industry, and away from music. And the first software company that I was with, we went practically overnight from 10 people to offices in 15 countries, and it was a blast. And it was
Congratulations,
it was an explosive growth, a lot of fun. and it was really interesting to see. And then it was after that, for the next decade or so, it was software company after software company after software company. I think it was 4 altogether. And just the startup environment. And that's where I really was able to sink my teeth into creating something from scratch, launching a company, and growing a company. And it was, there were lessons learned, good and bad, but it was a great time in the tech industry to be a part of something like that and to do that. And fortunately, I was able to do that. And then as time went on, I had a friend that started a finance company and drifted into that. And for the next decade, I did finance.
Wow.
And so that's, my background is mostly tech and then finance.
But you see what I'm saying, how now that you went to tech, you went to finance, and then you started something with Sound Royalties that has to do with tech and finance, but on the music side of it. It's just fascinating to me how that works. You know, I hate to get religious and talk about how God has this plan for people, and He puts you through these things to get you where you ultimately need to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happened to you, and the way you describe your story. But again, without getting too religious or anything like that,
I'm blessed. I really
blessed.
am.
Hey, my man, blessed. That's what I'm talking about. So okay. So you got through that. You went through finance, went through the tech industry. When did you decide to leave that finance, and what did you do afterwards? Did you go back into the music industry, or did something else happen before that?
No, it was around 2013 or so that I started to get in my mind that I wanted to do something different, and that I wasn't satisfied, I wasn't happy. And I was looking for something that would complete me or make me happy.
Right.
And most people, when they do that, they contemplate on their life. It was riding the bike, it was throwing the baseball with dad. And those people, well, let me be part of the baseball team now, or buy one, or, or whatever it may be, or let me create a motorcycle manufacturer and design my own bikes, or, maybe it's even swim bikes still.
Right.
But I went back to music. And I started to look at the music industry, started to read more about it, see what was going on. It's the music business. And so I knew a little bit about music, but I knew nothing about the business side of music at the time. And so I really started to research it, talk to people, understand what was going on, and travel around and visit people and ask questions. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that, tech companies, once they're sold based on the concept, and so they can get quite expensive. Finance companies are based more on numbers and their potential and concept, and so I gravitated over time. I started to see that there was a void in the finance side of things, and I actually I went to Nashville and visited all the banks and said, "Hey, I'm coming. What do you guys do from a traditional bank perspective?
Okay.
Who are the players from a private finance perspective?" And asked lots of questions. Then I visited all the private finance companies, and I went to them. I said, "I'm coming. Maybe we can work together. Maybe I can buy you or partner with you. Let's figure something out." And they opened their doors. And what I learned after about 14 months of doing that is there's 2 finance banking models.
Okay.
There's a bank model where the bank gives you a car loan, and the last thing they ever want to own is the car.
Okay.
And then there's more of a pawn shop model, where they want to absorb copyrights and as a good a deal, and then flip them.
Right.
And the industry had mostly traditional banks and more pawn shops. Those companies are still around today. They're viable. They're reputable. They just have a different approach to doing things.
Right.
And I started to then develop the concept that I did not want to buy copyrights. I didn't want to own them. And I wanted to offer a finance model that didn't do that and was more like a bank, but didn't have to look at an individual's credit, because the banks were telling me they were turning down at times 80% of the applications that came through. Because from a creative's career, your income goes up, down, up, down.
Right.
And, the mantra from everybody that I spoke to was, there's not enough deal volume. You either need to be a traditional bank with lots of other sectors that you work in, or one of these private finance companies. They need to do it because that's the only way to make money, is to get the copyright, and that's the holy grail of the way they could potentially make money in their business. And I didn't see that, and I didn't want that. And so I eventually decided to do it on my own. And I decided to launch a company called Sound Royalties. Sound Royalties doesn't buy copyrights, number one. Number two, unlike the bank, if the bank, you stop making payments on that car, they're going to take the car.
Right.
We put in our agreements, we don't get the copyrights no matter what.
Okay.
Because if we defaulted on one person and took their copyrights, then we're like everybody else.
Exactly.
And so it was focused on the income stream, not the copyrights, and we never got them, each specific stream, and it's not personally guaranteed by the individual or their other streams. And so one, we don't get the copyrights, two, we don't get them in default, and three, that desire to see the individual succeed, to see them pay back for that car or whatever it was, let us start to talk to people and say, don't come through our door and say, what's the most you'll give me? So-and-so will give me this, so-and-so, because that's a sale model.
Right.
That's like buying a car based on the payment. What's the biggest car I can get? Instead, come through the door and tell us what you need. Right? What you want today, not what you're going to want 6 months from now. Because it's a revolving door, you're advancing against your own income, it's going to pay it back. And so what we started to do then is allow pass-through income. And what that means is if someone earns, if we expect $2 a quarter from someone and they earn 6, that first year, then pass through 4.
Right.
So, allow for pass-through income. And what we didn't count on, but it makes sense, is that they started to work their catalog more. Some people would sign a deal with someone, they wouldn't see income stream from it, so they're like, why put more to this? It's just going to them, it's not my creativity.
Exactly.
But in our model, they could see, oh wow, if I can write a few more songs or perform a few more songs or do this, I'll boost the income stream, won't even miss what I'm paying you. And so it incentivized the creative to work, and lo and behold, the industry shifted to the point that we are the largest out there right now, and growing. And we provide something that is of value without taking the creativity, that core creativity, that copyright from the creatives.
Well, that's awesome. So, do you consider yourself a performance rights organization? Is that what that
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And so one of the things was to reach out to all the performance rights organizations and say, hey, listen, we'll advance them against their stream. So when they call you and you say, no, I can't give you an advance, don't say that. Say, you know what, there's a company that'll do that for you. And they're still with that PRO. We said to the publishers, I reached out to the publishers and said, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. If someone comes to us from Warner, Sony, whomever, that stream will be used as collateral, that income, but there's still a Sony writer, there's still a Warner artist, whoever it may be. We don't replace any of those entities. We're just the financial organization in the middle there.
Wow, well, that's great. So, do you solely work with more established artists rather than independent artists?
Absolutely not, and the world is shifting to the independent artists right now with streaming, and so there's a higher demand more and more each day for those. And my goal was to impact the industry in a positive way, and our goal as a team at Sound Royalties is to help as many people as we can. And therefore, if you're the multi-platinum global superstar, sure, we've got options for you. We want to talk to you, and we can make things look much better than you've seen before. But if you're some writer that's just starting out, or a producer, and you're earning $5,000 a year, not a month, you should call us, because we have a royalty specialist that'll help you. And so we want to help as many as possible. We have to cut it off at some point, so we look for around $5,000 a year in income.
And income as a whole, income just through music?
No, through music, royalties.
Got it.
Because remember, we're working with the royalties. They're not personally guaranteeing it. So it's only based on their royalty streams.
Got it. Okay. No, that sounds interesting. Yeah, we definitely need to talk because, I'm an artist as well, but of course I can use some help in that area. So I think, off camera, I'm sharing my business. But we definitely need to talk as far as that goes. Well, that's awesome, man. So now, what is the intent, behind, with the future goals for Sound Royalties? Is this something you're looking to stay in for a long period of time, or do you want to just scale it and sell it eventually? Like, what's the goal in that sense?
No, the intent, I intend to be in the music industry and do as much for the music industry as I can for the rest of my life.
Right.
My goal is to be in music, be part of music. And if you look at where I am on a daily basis, whether whether you see it on Instagram or in the news, I'm at as many award shows as I can get to. I'm at as many festivals and meeting the rising artists of all levels and the writers. I'm in writing sessions. I'm in recording sessions on a day-to-day basis. I believe that the only way to truly run a music business is to have your finger on the pulse, and you can't do that from an office.
Right.
And so that's where I am. And about almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, the board and I decided, and I requested. I said, listen, I want a president to run this organization, because when I did startups, I was smart enough to realize this is what I'm good at. And I'd surround myself with people that were good at other aspects that would complement what I can do, and together the sky's the limits. And when you start up a company, when it's just you, it's one thing.
Right.
When it's you and 10 people, it's another thing. When it's you and 30 people or a certain amount of clients and customers, it's another thing.
Right.
Once you get to 50, it's another thing. Then and it just keeps growing. And so it actually took about a year. We searched hard and went through a lot of great candidates. And after about a year, we found a president over at Sterling National Bank.
Nice.
That was open to making the transition, Michael Bisnoff. And he made the transition.
Shout out to Michael.
Yes. And he is running the business, Michael Bisnoff. And he's had a tremendous impact. He's coming up on to a year anniversary later this year. And so he's running the business, and I'm out there with my finger on the pulse, and even more and more so as day goes on. So you're going to see more of me out there. And together, we're able to bring better options, more services, and solutions for creatives.
That's awesome, man. It's good that you started something like this. I felt like there was a need for it, and it's good that you saw it early,
Thank you.
That's great, man. So what is a typical day for Mr. Alex? What are you doing day to day? You wake up, you play music, how do you unwind? Tell me about that stuff.
Well, I just started playing again about a month ago.
Okay.
Since 1988, I hadn't played till about April.
Played
piano.
Okay.
I started playing piano again, and that's thanks to Priscilla Renee.
Okay.
Yeah, she was staying with me and kept, come on, play, and so then I started playing, and sure enough, I got sucked into it again in a good way, and I love it. And so that's one way I like to unwind. But what I love about the day-to-day for me is there is no normal. I'm usually 2-3 days in the city and then off to the next one because I'm being pulled to some other music event or reason to be there for the music, business of music.
Right.
And so I just bounce around. I was just in Key West for the Key West Songwriters Festival. Met countless talented writers. I've relocated. I'm based in Nashville now. And Sound Royalties has a presence in Nashville because we view that as the core, the mecca of the music industry right now. Because if you think about it, there are more songwriters per capita than any other city in the world in Nashville. It's not the country music capital of the world. It is the music capital of the world.
Yeah, I think that was the misconception because everybody feels that all the country superstars come from there, but then they always associate New York and LA with the music industry, so...
New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami are important cities and are music cities. But and we're based in South Florida. We have a presence in LA, and we get that. But the core of the songwriters is in Nashville. Hit songwriters, the best songwriters in the world. And you see everybody because of that now coming through it. Not just country. We see Latin artists, reggae, urban, pop. Everybody's coming through there to collaborate and to create, especially as we go to a streaming world. And so instead of bouncing 3 days here, 3 days there, I'm spending more and more time in Nashville. Sound Royalties has a presence now in Nashville, and we're there in the heart of it. And I started. We were talking about your acting career as your entree into meeting creatives, and then we transitioned to Jamie Foxx and his ability to meet creatives through that route. Like I took a play from his playbook and started to throw little parties at the place in Nashville, and just to cycle through and meet and network all the different creatives. And every night we do it. There's so many new creatives that come through here, and it's so many new faces, and so it's just really, it makes it easier. I can see 30 people, 50 people in an evening rather than just one
or two,
and to to talk to them, understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're changing the way they're creating music, releasing music, promoting it, their tours, everything.
Right.
And the business managers come and the lawyers and everything. So just really getting a feel for the industry and how we can best serve it.
Okay. Well, tell me, do you think streaming helped the music industry?
You know what? Absolutely, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because if you step before streaming,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't say did the transition to digital help the music industry. You asked if streaming did, because before streaming we went through a period of a lot of pirating music, right? And so it really hurt the industry, and I think there was about 8 years of real downturn. And it really unfortunately squeezed some of the best creatives out of the industry. But that over the past few years has dramatically changed, and as streaming catches on, it just gets stronger and stronger in terms of the revenue streams that we're seeing and the models that we're showing now. It's a dramatic increase for songwriters and artists, and that's one of the things we help them do when they reach out to us. Is we help them understand their catalog is not just what it's earning today, but what it's going to earn 5 years from now and 20 years from now. And it's easy to undermine what we do. We all discount what we do. Oh, that was an amazing run you did. Well, not really. Maybe it was a PR, but you always, I could have done a little better. Or, oh, that was an amazing song. Or that's an amazing catalog. But once you've done it, you kind of discount it. And so I see that a lot of them discount what they perceive how long their music will play and how much, and that there's a resurgence in the sense that although you may have seen a decline, you're going to see more often than not an increase over time as the world shifts to streaming.
Okay.
And so we try to help creatives understand the business side and understand their streams and what the potential earning for those streams are. So that they understand the importance to keep it. Now there are reasons when they decide not to that make sense. And, we don't cross that bridge. We help them understand what they have and then point them in the right direction if that's the path that they need.
Right.
But it's important that they understand the value of it and what they have.
Right. Now that makes perfect sense, man. I didn't consider what was going on before streaming, so I see how it's helping it now in that sense. The only reason for me that I feel, I guess it's helping it, but it's just the fact of the structure of the payments. When they say 1,500 streams equals like one sale, and then that equivalates to this, and then you got to split that pie with everybody else. So I guess if you're not like a Drake or a Garth Brooks or something, then you're not really getting much, as far as money is concerned. So you have to do more touring and sell more merchandise and stuff like that. So that's what made it seem to me like, damn, like can you really survive being a musician in the streaming era?
Yes, you just have to adapt.
Right.
And so, the common misconception is, oh my God, I need 150 streams.
1,500.
150 streams to equate to a single, and 1,500 for a full download.
Got it.
Right? And in that sense, what we've seen is legacy artists. Name a legacy artist.
Bon Jovi.
Great. Okay. So if you look at John's numbers, I'll speak freely about this because I haven't looked at them and can't speak to them. But what I can tell you is if you go on to Nielsen and look at his numbers, what you will see is his sales continuously would decline over time because everybody that wanted the Slippery When It Wet album had it. So they don't need to go to buy it again.
Okay.
But now with streaming, their mechanicals are rising again. Because every time someone plays one of his songs, it's a sale. It's a micro sale. It takes 1,500 like you talked about. But nobody was buying in general in mass volumes because those fans already had it. Now, each time they play it, they're buying it again. So legacy artists see an increase in their streams in terms of mechanicals that they never saw before. And touring, what I saw, I'm constantly out in the field, touring was about, back in the day, selling albums. Let's record, let's release an album, let's go on tour, lose money on the tour, but sell albums.
Right.
Right? Then it became, oh my God, we're not making money, music's being pirated, we gotta make money on tour.
Right.
And so we saw that cycle of streamline the tour, make money on the tour, as many dates as possible. It was all about making money on the tour. Now it's shifting back again to the value of the tours, not just about making money on the tour.
Right.
It's about growing streaming. So how do I see artists do that? Well, before they go to a city, whether it's a 1,500 person venue or a 25 or 50,000 person venue, if it's sold out, they're still promoting to that city. Why? Because it puts them in the forefront of their fans' minds,
Right.
and those fans are buying their music again. Each time they stream it, they're buying their music. When they leave the city, back in the day, they'd sold all the albums, and they'd really scale back the marketing to that city in general,
Right.
Around the tour. Well, now let me do a post-show recap to that city. Show them if they didn't make it, what they missed. If they did make it, remind them of it so they go listen to that music again.
Right.
Because it's all about the micro sale, that micro purchase.
Now that makes tremendous amount of sense, and I get that. Okay. So, how can I ask this? What do you see okay, so you know how it was digital, then it was streaming. Do you have a premonition where things may go next, possibly, in the music industry?
I think there's a lot of changes coming in the music industry, but I think streaming is here to stay for some time to come. What we're seeing is right now urban is hot. It's all over the charts, and urban music's great. But what's missing from that model, if you look at the Billboard top 10 songs on their most streamed chart, you're going to see, I looked at it about 6 months ago, and at that time, what I saw was 8 out of the top 10 were urban and 2 were pop. Right? Now shift over to Amazon. Amazon has this Alexa device.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, Alexa, play me this. Alexa, play me that. And it's a different group, class, and individual age group of people that are using the Alexa. And if you look at their charts, you're not finding any urban in the top 10. And so as middle America starts to stream, as older generations start to stream, and all those that aren't streaming now have easier mechanisms to stream or choose to adapt to the smartphone and streaming, you're going to see massive growth in country, Christian, Latin, and other genres.
Right.
Even jazz, is going to see a resurgence. I love jazz.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a money maker. It can be now. Right? And so you're going to see a lot of different genres of music resurface, and that's the next wave. I think we're going to see everybody else follow the younger generation that promoted and pushed urban, and you're going to see that stabilize into massive income streams for other genres. And they're in middle America. They had 2 country stations, 1 Christian station, and a handful of pop. Now they're not stuck with that 1 Christian station. They can say, I want Christian rock, I want gospel, right? And they're asking for it.
Right.
As you give them that tool, they're asking for it. So it's going to be spread out, but it's not going to diminish what we already have because those people are streaming and asking for what they want.
Right.
It's just more and more will come, and we'll start to see increased mechanicals and everything else revenue from those genres.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I can't wait for that day. You know, it's coming. I know it. I feel it.
It's every day, just a little bit more.
Right, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
You know, push forward every day. So, tell me, what's for Sound Royalties? You know, where do you see this business growing into? Like, you know, what other branches of the tree are you trying to, you know, grow that out into? You know, or other fields you're looking to be a part of as well.
You know, my goal and Sound Royalties is to be all things money for music.
Okay.
Right? And so what does that mean? With Michael's help and everybody on the team, I mean, I'm blessed again to be part of and partners with the most fabulous team. We've got a great team of minds working together on this. And, you know, with that group, what I see and what all things money for music means is we're getting expanding, and we've already seen this and have dramatic shift in our offerings. Whether you're a global superstar, we have many more options and better solutions for you than we've ever had before because of the expansion in terms of our knowledge base, expertise, the increased data from streaming. We're able to do much more than we ever could before and provide better solutions than we ever could before for that global superstar. At the same time, for that individual that, you know, owed the IRS $1 million and their catalog could be sold for $75,000 or $25,000, nobody could ever give them money. You know, we can help those individuals as well too. So we're expanding into a wider array to help as many people as we can in the industry, without them losing their copyrights and without them losing 100% of their stream and without them personally guaranteeing it.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I wish you nothing but success and the best
Thank
of
you.
luck, because, I mean, it sounds like you have a clear head on your shoulders, you know, the direction you're heading in. And I just love that, you know, again, it's hard not to get spiritual about how God placed you in these certain circumstances and got you to where you ultimately wanted to be, that was in your heart. So that's great, man. Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
For coming through today. You know, I learned a lot from you today in this short amount of time, you know, and I hope we can work together in the near future for sure, because I definitely can use all the help I can get in the music world as well. You know, but thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sleep is for Billionaires, the podcast. I am your host, Johnny VEGAZ, Alex HEICHE. Stay tuned for more episodes to come. Thank you for watching.